What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rap Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane, and I'm joined once again by my co-host, last week's star of the show, along with his brother Sean, stepping in for me intermittently. But now I'm back, as Cole promised. But Cole yesterday was one of the many, according to my ears, listening to the game on TV or watching the game on TV, many of St. John's fans who made it out to Philadelphia to see St. John's get a win inside of Finneran Pavillion for the first time since 1993, a win that brought St. John's to 3-1 in the Big East and tied atop the Big East standings. Cole, did you give it to those bastards pretty good down there in Philadelphia yesterday?
They were not happy with me, those mainline rich folk. They did not appreciate the "Let's Go Johnny's" chants from all the fans in attendance in the second half. I think we just have to be over the moon right now. It's really starting to show just what a great coach Rick Pitino is, the job he's doing with this team. Obviously, what he's done with Brady Dunlap and bringing freshmen along is tremendous. I think these last two games between the Butler game and the Villanova game, those were two real measuring sticks for games that you needed to win to have a real solid resume come tournament time. And now in the last 80 minutes of play, we haven't trailed at all. Two wire-to-wire wins against teams that really are real resume boosters for us. So just couldn't be happier.
True, exactly. And like even more so than what the wins mean in terms of your overall resume, if you have two losses to those teams, it's worse than what the wins are as on a positive scale. What you love to see about the wins is we're playing a lot better. We're doing it in different ways. One, Brady Dunlap has really stepped up huge in these last two outings, one off the bench. Second one, you got the start against Nova, who was in his top three, if you remember, of his final schools he was looking at, I believe. So that probably felt nice. His parents were in attendance. But St. John's has won these games. They've done so looking better and better. I think it bodes well for the future we have inside this conference. We haven't played Georgetown or DePaul yet. I'm sorry. Apologies to Providence, who is a tough opponent and who we'll see next game, who has a little bit of a snake bitten history in terms of injuries. And once again, thoughts go out to Bryce Hopkins, who is out for the season. That's a tough injury. Hate to see that. St. John's has got the benefit of facing some teams now, Villanova, UConn, and Providence coming up, who will be without their best player. So take advantage against Villanova. We didn't quite take advantage against UConn. Let's see if we can take advantage against Providence Wednesday night at home at the Garden. Hopefully a packed house with a lot of St. John's fans in attendance.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Joel Soriano just played an absolutely amazing game yesterday. I think you talk about sort of statement possessions, and I think that first basket that he had, that first dunk, was really like this, setting the tone of how this game was going to be played all day. I think looking back, to give compliments to both of our big men, I think another one of those statement possessions was that block by Zuby Ejiofor, which was just a tremendous play. But I think going into the Nova game, there's a little bit of concern for me just with how Nova plays, going a little smaller with Burton and Dixon both being like 6'7", 6'8", and how we were going to defend that. But the counter argument to that is, with their two bigs being 6'7" and 6'8", how do they defend Joel Soriano? And the answer was they really couldn't, with him dropping 20 and 8. So,
yeah, when we're able to get him the ball and he's able to get his looks early and often, he's been really effective around the rim, not just offensive rebounding, which doesn't really matter. He's going to get those, regardless of who's taking the shots or how many balls or how many passes he gets in the post. But his post moves, he had a really nice deep hook finish yesterday. His spins on the baselines for dunks. He's obviously getting great at drop off and finishes. And one thing all the guys on the team, especially the guards who are penetrating, seem to notice is that he's available on those late, drop off alley-oops, and he's getting better and better at finishing those, either with a dunk or just a layoff. We've seen that become like a really key offensive type option in the last 10 or so years in college basketball. A couple players, Tariq Owens, Isaiah Moore in particular, seem like guys who were able to take advantage of it. And it seems like Joel, at his size, is something that can not only help him, but our guards get space, as well as Brady Dunlap being a sniper from the outside, looking more and more confident, not only as a shooter, but looked all right in the zone yesterday. Being in person, Cole, why don't you give us a little scout report of how Brady looked physically, up close and personal on the court against Villanova, who's got a lot of, big athletic wings.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's young and he still looks slight of frame. He'll put on some muscle as he gets older. But as Rick said when Rick was talking about his performance in the Butler game, he's not afraid to like stick his nose in there and get physical with guys. I thought he did a great job defensively, sort of staying in front of his man. And he's not afraid to, even with him being slight of frame, he's not afraid to get in there and push people around and be physical. So I was really, really, really encouraged by how Brady played and how he's been playing the last couple of games. So tip of the cap to coach with his player progression and stuff, because the development that we've seen from Dunlap over the last couple of games has just been unbelievable. So
Absolutely. And who knows who'll be the next surprise to have a few good games. It seems like it's happened on a few occasions this year with some different players. So keep that in mind as the season goes on. You never know who will step up. I said it, I think, on redfans.com, the St. John's message board. Shout out to those good folks over there. It's not exactly apples to apples, but if you remember in Steve Lavin's first year, Sean Evans' first half of the season was kind of non-existent, and then one game against Duke, he had a out of nowhere double-digit performance, and then for the rest of the season, he played an integral part and kind of gave us a new ceiling in types of the potential we had as a team and a dimension we didn't quite have. And I thought Brady, a different player, not a physical power forward, but a different dimension, came out of nowhere, sparked us in a game, and now it looks like he's going to be a part of this thing going forward big time, and it kind of changes the whole, in my opinion, potential of this team. If you've got a guy who can play 15 to 25 minutes a night at that level and bring that type of shooting threat, you can put a lot of stress on an opponent's defense and, give your guys opportunities to play in a lot of different spots in the floor where they can be effective. So cheers to Brady and cheers to Coach Pitino for pulling the right button or pushing the right buttons there. Taking a look at the box score, Cole mentioned it. I think player of the game again, Joel Soriano. Even without the double-double, don't let that be a letdown to those fans who have come to expect it night in and night out by the big guy. But 20 points, 8 rebounds, 7 for 10 from the field, 35 minutes, just an anchor, draws so much attention. He's become more and more patient and seemingly been the best big man in every game we've played this year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you could argue Holmes on Dayton got the better of him. A couple other guys. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but sure as hell seems like it's been that way.
Yeah, looking at the box score, I think something that jumps out at me that's been up and down over the course of the year's free throw shooting. We've seen poor performances, and then sometimes the team shoots well. Yesterday, shooting 76% was huge, taking advantage. They've been doing a better job of drawing fouls on the opposition, and then to take advantage of the charity stripe. I thought it was great. So.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of coincided with RJ Lewis coming back into the fold. He's, if not anything else, aggressive going to the basket, and he seemingly does a lot more than just that. Full of potential, full of talent, has to be reined in maybe just a little bit, but it's, a whole new system. He's come on late, hasn't had much time to practice. I don't think we can judge him completely on that quite yet. You can see what he can bring when he's playing his best, and it's something that looks like he'd be a really big benefit to a team that kind of lacked explosion on the wing offensively. And he can also be a big help defensively on the boards, as we've seen to date. Not so much in the half court where he got blown by, but Armstrong's a quick hitter. He got blown by a few times in the half court, but that full court press with his length, his athleticism, and his ability to kind of take up space, he's been a difference maker there. Taylor got back in the fold after an absence from the last game, kind of unexpectedly. Who knows what goes on those decisions, but as we've said over and over again, we're on team trust Rick Pitino there. Seemed to be cheering them on even when he was on the bench, which is quite the custom for this team so far. Team over themselves in terms of who's on the bench cheering and who's out there working for each other, which is refreshing to see. Were you close enough, Cole, to see these guys, on the court, like communicating with each other? And
oh yeah, dude, the communication on defense is awesome to see. Obviously, the Rick Pitino sort of switching man-to-man defense or the zone, but they are very vocal in communicating switches and stuff. So that was awesome. I wanted to also just harp on, you mentioned Taylor. I think that's something that we should be really proud of. Obviously, the stats don't really jump off the box score at you, but obviously we have raved about his defense all season long. I think for him not to get down on himself after barely playing at all against Butler. I know I mentioned it with Sean in our last podcast, but he was putting up shots in the gym at 12:53 in the morning after the Butler game. Like, to that devotion, as you mentioned, cheering on the team, even a game that he wasn't playing last week, and then to come out, start today, and play good hard-nosed defense. I was very, very proud of him. So I think he should be commended for that for sure.
Oh yeah, and it seems widespread. I mean, you see Wilcher, you see Drissa, like over and over again, guys who aren't getting minutes, just being the loudest, cheers on the bench. And eventually, when their time gets called, hopefully they're ready and they take advantage of it. Looking at the box score,
what Brady said, not wanting to be it, he didn't come to St. John's knowing that he would get major minutes. He expected to sort of have a learning curve as a freshman, but he wanted to always stay ready for when coach called his name. And obviously now he has been ready. So yeah, it's awesome that the whole team has that mindset.
Talk about refreshing. That mindset's awesome to hear. 5 minutes for Zuby, but like you said, an impactful 5 minutes that first half. A couple really important plays. That block was, just a wall at the basket. Denied him right at the last second, and not just denied him, kind of humiliated him, threw him right down to the ground, and it was as clean as it could be. And then I think a couple plays later had that alley-oop finish off a Wilcher dish. Good to see Sim have that nice decision off a break, got us a big 2 points. But I think that 5 minutes, you might look at that box score, see 5 minutes, only 2 points, 1 rebound. And the block's not even listed, if you can believe that, but you might not get the sense for how much he's improved, I thought, since the beginning of the season. I think it's a really positive direction, and it gives me a good sense of hope that next year, hopefully we bring in some big guys who might be more of a offensive threat, but I think he can take a step and be a big part of whatever front court we have moving forward, and feel pretty good about that.
Absolutely.
I know you've been high on Zuby since signing day.
Big Zuby fan. Yeah, I think just something else I wanted to throw out there with the defense. Nova is 9-1 when they shoot over 30% from the 3-point line. They shot 21% last night or yesterday. I think we've seen that be a focus of Rick Pitino's defense, is defending the 3-point line. So you and I were talking offline, but there was a few open threes that Nova missed. But I mean, Dixon shot 2 for 10 and I think that's sort of part of that is they wanted to sort of try to take advantage of Joel and have Dixon playing out on the perimeter, and he wasn't hitting shots. And again, it's been a bugaboo of St. John's for how many years of us getting killed from the 3-point line. So to see Rick make an emphasis of that is awesome.
Yeah, and Tim Brando felt so bad for Eric Dixon's, shots rimming in and out. It's like, oh man, spare me, Brando. It's like there must have been a time when Tim Brando was a hell of a broadcaster, but it was a long time ago. And I wonder how many Kobe King games he's had this year, but I'm sure he misses him when he puts his head to sleep at night. Looking at the team comparison, St. John's shot better than them from 2, shot better than them from 3, won the free throw battle, lost the turnover battle just barely. But again, St. John's was a team who got a lot of second chance points in the paint, and that's been their MO early, even without Ledlum, which you forget. A lot of people mentioned Justin Moore didn't play for Villanova, but we also didn't have Chris Ledlum, a starter who's been playing better of late, fallen into a better role for him, definitely. So we'll see how that affects his forward playing time. When you look at Taylor, Lewis, Dunlap now, and Ledlum, those 4 guys, will we get more action with maybe 2 of those guys on the court at the 2 and 3, or the 3 and 4 together, or will it be more minutes where you go small and maybe that might hurt Zuby going forward? I don't know, but we've got Pitino to figure that out, and I'm confident he'll pull the right, make the right decisions there.
Yeah, I mentioned 3-point shooting, defense, free throws, but the other thing that you mentioned that jumps out to me is points in the paint. 81 points that we scored, 42 of them are in the paint. I know Joel shot 7 for 10. Like I mentioned, with Nova being smaller, with Burton and Dixon, to just make it an emphasis of get the ball down low and score. That was awesome. We gave up 36, but you mentioned a lot of that was getting beat out on the edge and guys getting open layups or dunks. I think Joel was a force, an absolute force. And if we can take advantage of teams that are smaller on a consistent basis and make it an emphasis to feed him, I don't know how teams can really slow that down without having to completely change their defense.
Yeah. Providence coming up on Wednesday. Odoro, who came over with English from George Mason, has played really well. He's a big body, but not huge height wise. Joel's probably got 2+ inches on him height wise, but Odoro's a strong guy who's a savvy player. Not an easy matchup for Joel, but a guy who Odoro will have to really work hard to keep Joel from getting looks around the basket. So hopefully we take advantage there. And when it's not, um, I'm trying to think of their backup center, but I know they're playing mostly four guards around Odoro. So if they're going to do that, then look for Ledlum Lewis to have some big nights crashing the glass like they have lately. Hopefully Ledlum is able to play, but a chance for St. John's to get a nice win against a team right now that's still got some, a good resume and, injury aside, has still played well against Creighton without him in that last few minutes against Seton Hall when he got injured. So no reason to look past Providence and a chance to get a nice win and get the 4-1 in Big East play for, God knows since when the last time that was.
Yeah, I thought one of the cool things being there yesterday, getting to speak to a bunch of different Nova fans, and what an unbelievably beautiful stadium Finneran is, just an absolute marvel. But the consensus was from all of the Nova fans that I spoke to is just how jealous they are of our coaching situation and having Rick Pitino. Obviously Kyle Neptune's still young and learning his ways, and he could ultimately end up being a wonderful coach. But I think they're still a little spoiled from having Jay Wright for so long, and they look at us having Pitino and just the master class that Rick does every single night with the X's and O's is so fun, and it was cool to hear our thoughts on Rick be emphasized by another group. So
yes, cool. Relish it, people, relish it. Villanova where could they go and have it be better or as good as Jay Wright? There's only one way to go, and unfortunately that's downhill. You just hope it wasn't very much downhill. But Jay Wright had some lean years people forget about, and then some lean years even after he got his first Final Four. So once he had it going, of course it's going to be hard to replicate. But I do look at this guy, Neptune, and I wonder if he will get there, and I can understand why Nova fans are so frustrated. But it's not our issue. And I hope they're envious of us for years to come, as well as many other Big East teams. But shout out to Cole. Shout out to Sean for stepping in. We're going to have to get Sean on here for, a three-guy pod at some point and see how that goes. Put the brothers against each other a little bit, see what secrets I can get out of them. But for Lamont Hamilton, this has been Pat Kane. That's Cole Atshaw, the Redstone Rapid Reaction Podcast. Peace. V down, is that a big